Hi, welcome to the Catalyst Podcast. I'm your host, Hunter Burney. A catalyst is defined as a person or thing that precipitates an event. A catalyst is something that it participates in a reaction but does not get consumed in the reaction. There's a heart behind this podcast for, people with aspirations. There's a heart behind this podcast for motivated people that want to make a difference, that have a bias for action, that really truly want to be a catalyst in the environment around them, both professionally and personally, in their homes, in their workplace, and beyond. So welcome to this podcast. I really hope you're enjoying the series that we're in. Welcome to this episode, and let's dive right in. Hop back in with the second episode with Brad Smith from Stellar Insight. If you haven't caught the first episode, please be sure to go catch that. We talk in kind of a quick fashion about Brad's background, and I think it really tees us up to continue this conversation to talk about his heart for leadership. Specifically, Brad, I want to kind of get into Stellar Insight, the origination of that, and kind of where you're at today with that. So maybe that's, I know according to LinkedIn, that's a 25-year journey for you. So I wanted to leave enough room for this part of the conversation. But yeah, if you'll just kind of take us through the creation of Stellar Insight, and we'll go from there.
Okay. So there's based on the 34 companies that my dad started, and watching him, every one of those stories came through the house. So every one of the stories came through. I knew cause and effect, right? And I watched the details of how things would fall apart. So my inspiration, if you would, almost to give back to all the good things I learned from my dad, was if someone shows up in front of me, whether it's in the phone or video or whatever, right, or in person, like they show up in front of me and they're ambitious and they have a business, I want to help them, speed up the process from where they are to where they could stumble around and get to some goal, right? So the reason I do my coaching is I want them to be better. And I get the joy, if you would. I said for years, I live on epiphany juice.
Mm-hmm.
When I talk with someone and understand where they're at, and that takes about an hour, right? By the time I'm done with that first conversation with someone, I know where they want, I know their level of drive and burn to get there, right? And then I know how long it's going to take them and the gaps they have between where they are and where they want to be, and a rough idea of the number of and specific points I'm going to bring epiphanies into their life to be able to bring them. In other words, to call what I do for a living an epiphany maker, right? Oh, no.
Draw that out.
You're right, to draw it out. How do you take a company from wherever it's at and double its size? There are roadblocks in between point A and point B. And point C being what's the next level that they can barely imagine. There are more blocks there, right? And so every one of those involve not just the ordinary processes in their operations, but also their leadership and their ability to look at processes and understand them and draw out what the solutions are. So you've got a combination of intuition, you've got and there's a specific reason I named my company Stellar Insight. I spent 6 months trying to figure out, what is it I actually sell? I sell people's ability to get to insights faster, because insights are what drive the future of a business.
Yeah.
Future, proper, operations and strategic vision. You blend those two together appropriately, you wind up with sooner, faster, and better, So
yeah. Wow.
What I get to do for a living is that I get to drag people, nudge them, push them, harass them. I call myself the hired pain in the neck, to get them to success faster.
Okay. And what areas of, let's see, a few things come to mind when I think about like who your target audience is. Are you looking at specific industries or company sizes or anything like that?
Humans.
Okay.
Humans.
Broad spectrum there.
Broad spectrum. The only thing I haven't been really successful with is retail, because
Okay.
they think it's a commodity.
Yeah.
It's not.
That's understandable. And my follow-up question would be, I'm curious, is there are you're kind of covering all the major um functional areas of the business, right? Not just siloed
There
on.
is not a single piece of the business I don't touch in the process. Operations, finances, human talent, you know,
Yeah.
uh, how those are organized, organizational structure, business model. I've got the business model down in my mind and understanding in the first 15 minutes I talk to
Wow.
someone. How do they put it together? How does it work? How do they get money in the door? What's their sales pipeline work like? What's their marketing process work like? So
Yeah.
yeah, someone with a chemistry background, with an MBA, bachelor's in business management and an MBA in marketing and finance. There's not a piece we don't touch.
So do you have you always had that approach and impact? Or 25 years ago, was that the original vision, and kind of graphed
It,
into?
everything changes and evolves. You
Okay.
just
Okay.
can't help it, right?
Yeah.
Normally with professionals, like attorneys, let's say, there's a 3-year journey from fresh in the door to into, first they're a junior partner, a junior person, then they're a senior, protege, if you would.
Mm-hmm.
Then they get to be junior partner, then they get to be senior partner. And there's 3 to 7 year gaps between each one of those. Every time I turned around, every 3 years, there would be a deeper understanding of what I offered my clients.
Mm-hmm.
So at 25 years, I'm radically different than I was when I started. Still the same goal is, how do I get them to their goals before, smoother, faster, and better?
Yeah.
Less internal violence.
What and less friction, right?
Yep.
That's kind of what you're going at. What are you, as you look back, are you surprised by something that did or didn't happen, or how something evolved based on what your expectations were along the way, or
Right now, I am in the middle of a transformation, another
okay.
transformation, right?
Okay.
And
Okay.
I realized that one of the things I had been essentially hiding out, I wasn't comfortable with being in a public figure sort of stance, if you would, and bringing out what I know.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been little dreams dropped into my brain, if you would, over the years. It's like, no, Brad, what you really want to do is you want to grow your status in the world and your credibility based, of course, on accurate facts, right? You want that to share what you know and what you've learned over the years with as broad a function with a population of the earth as I can. Mm-hmm. So one of my goals is to, bear with me, coach governors. Okay. Because there's only one of me, and they get to, the bigger the company, the bigger the organization, they affect the lives of more and more people.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but thanks to tools that we have at our disposal today, that's something you can do remotely. I'm sure some of it would involve travel and seeing people face to face, but
we haven't invented teleportation yet, but there we are. We will.
Right. But, at least you have the, resources to be able to scale a little bit,
right,
and make that impact.
Yeah. Well, and, teaching. I want to make sure people know things. Just because I have a brain and certain insights, and all the history behind it to make it that way, doesn't mean that everyone is that way. And as many as I can convert into, one of the things that I find we have a desperate need for in this world is visionary leaders. And a visionary leader is a compilation of the analytical mind, the intuitive mind, deep self-awareness of their emotions, right? And if they combine all 3 of those with a really deep level of intuition, that's how the mind generates insight.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
yeah,
I'm a 26-year meditator.
Okay.
I've kind of wandered that direction, and that has opened more doors than I ever thought was possible.
Wow. That's awesome. I'm glad you brought that up. Because I know we talked earlier, that was, something that stood out, but also, with leadership kind of, business strategy and leadership really being the core focus here at Catalyst. I was curious to hear specifically about your coaching experience with your clients, the companies and the evolution that you've seen in these companies, how leadership has played a role, what that conversation is like, your key takeaways, your key coaching points. And, I think when I think about the target audience for Catalyst, generally speaking, is first-time managers, early career leaders, and kind of that next gen wave of leadership that maybe they are, still aspiring and really want to make sure that they are exposing themselves to experiences and knowledge and, things that will help them kind of accelerate things. So I think a lot about kind of the way you've framed this up. So I'd love to hear, you talk a little bit about what your experience is with your clients and just your philosophy on that.
Okay. When I talk with someone, probably in the first 5 minutes, because of the experience I went with that I talked about in the first one, the colitis and reading character, I read their character, right? I know who they are and what the major components are. In that, I understand how they view their business. Where are they in the spectrum from quadrant 1, urgent, run, put out fires constantly, to long-term visionary people, and how they work literally by the words they use and the speed of how the words come out, how fast the words come out of their mouth, right? And how they frame their thoughts, right? The other thing that I found absolutely critical is there rapport between who I am and them, right? Is there rapport? If there's no rapport, I can't work with them. But if there's rapport, then we can move things, right? So given rapport and an understanding of who they are, I look at the business let's put it this way. I use their business as a projection screen for who they are and the transformation they have to go through and the business has to go through. Let's put it this way. If you start a company and you've worked really, really hard over, let's say 5-10 years, and you've gotten it to $10 million a year, that's pretty significant, right? But to take it from 10 million to 50 million is another significant change. And then to 100 million, to add a zero, which I love to do, right? It's like if you add a zero to a company, how do you have to be to get there, right? So it takes energy to get there. One of the things that one of my clients trained me into, opened my eyes to, was he had so much growth, he had to have a talent pipeline. They talk about a sales pipeline, right? Well, he found out he had to have a talent pipeline backed up to the place where I'm going to need this many people doing these things at this date. And 8 months from now, I've got to have these many more people to do this. And 2 years from now. So he had a talent pipeline, and he built that as thoughtfully, we did, right? As thoughtfully as he built his sales pipeline.
Wow. That way he's not reacting to the need of the
reacting. If you're in quadrant 1 all the time, and you're never going to grow your company beyond you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
The only way you can grow a company, and this is a cue, right? Stephen Covey had, and also it's called the Eisenhower quadrant, right? The urgent and important, not urgent but important, right? So quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4, right? Those 4 quadrants. Most people run their businesses in quadrant 1. Operations happens in quadrant 1, most of it. Quadrant 2 is where the great visionary leaders live. The people that live in quadrant 2, they've got, a 10, 15, 20 year time horizon in their head all the time. So ask yourself, if you're an aspiring leader, how far in the future do I plan specifically, right? And what are the goals and what are the steps I have to go through? If you carry a 10 to 15 to 20 year, I carry a 30 year, that's one of them, timeline, time horizon in my mind all the time.
Yeah.
And bring it back to right now, to the operational, all the time, every day.
Yeah.
Right. If you can do both of those things, operations and long-term vision, then you got a really good chance of being a visionary leader.
Wow. You're kind of training yourself to focus on what's really going to get you down that path, as opposed to just constantly being distracted by the need of the day.
Well, let's put it this way. I'm a compulsive visionary leader. I look at things at the 75, 100,000 foot level all the time. And thank God I was trained as a chemist. I can actually bring it down to the 5 foot level in the current moment. So I've been trained in the analytical and the chemist and the operational. And because of that, partly because of my background growing up, but I'm an automatic visionary leader. It's just there all the time.
Yeah.
You can train yourself into it though.
Yeah. Do you get a good response from that with your clients, and they try to absorb some of that from you, or they just they
don't get to be a client of mine if they're not willing to learn.
Thank you for being a part of this journey. Definitely subscribe, like, check out Be a Catalyst on Instagram and on Twitter. Also, don't forget to check out the YouTube channel, where you'll find videos in addition to the Catalyst podcast recordings that give a little bit more context around my heart for training, my heart for seeing early to middle managers and first-time leaders really thrive and be a catalyst in the organization that they're in the project that they are after, everything that goes along with that. So thank you for being a part of this. Tune in for the next episode, and remember, be you, be confident, be a catalyst.